Good morning, and it gives me great pleasure to be with you in Madrid today to recognize the strong commitment of the Spanish node in the SLICES initiative. I would like to thank the stakeholders and the organizers for this meeting, and special thanks goes to Carmen and Carlos for their daily engagement in SLICES, and gratitude to Arturo. It has been a long journey, actually 20 years. If you remember when we started in INEX, this network of excellence, to think about what kind of tools the community should develop to make the European ICT research more competitive. Let me just check if this is working fine. Yes, okay, perfect. So as I said in my introduction, we have been developing tools for the ICT research community, and we have to say that we are quite proud. We have been developing, for instance, in Europe, Planet Lab, long time ago, and Fed for Fire. In the US, because it's an international development, there has been initiatives like, for instance, Orbit and Genie, and in, of course, China, similar initiatives like Genie. So as I said, some of them have been quite successful, but unfortunately, they are not transformative. So we are a little bit frustrated. This is why we decided to change the narrative. So why are we frustrated? Today, we are here in this wonderful place and co-located with an important conference, Mobicom. There is another very important competitive conference, SIGCOM, which is a yearly conference, and I make this very simple example. I did the calculation of the number of authors in the papers published at SIGCOM from the tech giants, so basically Google, Amazon, Facebook, as well as the Chinese one, Alibaba and Tencent. And the percentage, since 10 years, is between 25 to 55%. So why is it so? Certainly because they have the best researchers, but also because they have a unique infrastructure for testing. They can design new protocols or new algorithms, and they can deploy it at scale, collecting the data. So it makes publication much easier. And if we do nothing, then we are going to continue to lag behind. So this is why we decided to change the narrative to make a new initiative both transformative and sustainable, because none of them in the past has been sustainable. So what is in SLICES? To make it simple, in this presentation, I put the name SIGG because everyone can understand what is SIGG about. But as Mr. Colomé said, it's about digital infrastructures. And it's important to remember that there is no digital transformation of our society without a digital infrastructure. So this is the target of SLICES. But I would like to say that this is also a very important development to contribute to the development of European values, because there is no plan B. The only way to be competitive is to unite at the European level. So what does it mean to change the narrative? That's a picture for you, Mr. Colomé. So what you see in those wonderful pictures, so on the left-hand side for you is the famous square kilometer array. It's a wonderful scientific instrument for astronomers. It's deployed both in Australia and South Africa. And what you see on the right-hand side is a collider. So everyone knows what is a collider for high-energy physics. So what makes the difference is that those research infrastructures are defined as scientific instruments. And in the past, it was mentioned by Elena Offert, no scientific instrument was dedicated to the research for digital sciences. And of course, it was a big challenge for us to explain what are our scientific questions, what is the community, and why is it so strategic for Europe. So this is what it means to change the narrative. It is to move from, basically, if I take the framework of the European Commission, it means moving from pillar 2, where we used to have our main developments incubated, to Pillar 1, where you have ERC as well as a scientific instrument. So it means also that you move from what we call mid-scale infrastructure. This is what they have in the US and China. So it's in the order of 100 million euro to large-scale infrastructure, because that's the cost, at least, of a collider. And it's also very important because it's a very well-defined framework where we have to cope with very stringent requirements. So, to make a long story short, it was reminded by many of you, it's a long involvement, but we succeed pretty quickly to be in the ESPRI roadmap. So we entered the ESPRI roadmap in 2021. The first point that I would like to mention, because nothing can be done without the engagement of talented people, is that we succeed to bring into the same initiative research communities from networking, distributed systems, IoT, cloud, HPC. So that's unique. Even in the US today, they cannot do this. It's still very fragmented. Also, there is no digital infrastructure without those components. So that was a very big achievement. And then, so we move forward according to the ESPRI roadmap. So as of today, we are very proud because it was a couple of years only, but we succeed to have 15 countries involved in SLICES with the political support of 12 of them. As you know, the processes in each member state is different with different type of milestones. So we are very hopeful that we will succeed to have the 15 member states with the political support. We have the engagement of 25 organizations, but we can reach out to more than 100. The reason is that in SLICES, we are very cautious to the subsidiarity of each member state. So in some countries, for instance, if I take Poland, in Poland, there is only one signatory to engage the whole Polish community. It's PSNC that then is organizing the Polish community to engage into SLICES. In other countries, for instance, in France, we are 5 signatories of the, let's say, Memorandum of Understanding. So that's the reason why we have 25 members. But it's important to understand that we can reach out to more than 100 organizations. And most importantly, we are slowly moving into the research infrastructure roadmap of the member states. As of today, we already have 7 of us involved in the national roadmaps. So for those who are not familiar, I'm not going in the details, but basically we are a distributed research infrastructure, meaning that this is a joint investment strategy between the European Commission and the member states. And it means that we have a central node, which is going to basically mutualize resources that are necessary to drive and steer the infrastructure. But also, very importantly, we have national nodes with their own infrastructure. Of course, it's a single instrument, single access, single portal, and single strategy. As it was mentioned, and this is mostly to manage complexity, because today we have 25 signatories, we decided already to move into this ERIC legal structure. So this is also a quite long and tedious process, but we are quite hopeful. And so having a legal statute for ERIC will make it simpler for us to engage into different initiatives. Because as for today, when we want to engage SLICES, we can only engage a few partners of the community to basically represent the whole community. So this already started. I'll come back to that in a few minutes. So this is the time frame. It's just unique. When I show this slide to our colleagues in the US or in Asia, they are astonished that we have a roadmap until 2040. This doesn't exist for any ICT research infrastructure. This is why I believe that we have a huge competitive advantage. So as you see, for those who are not familiar with S3, you have phases in S3, and as if you built a telescope, you have to demonstrate that you master and that you reach every single phase with the minimum key requirements. So we already succeed the design phase, which basically demonstrates our capacity. And we have moved into the preparation phase, where we put everything, all the components from technical to political and administrative in place. And an important thing in ICT is that we don't have to wait until the telescope is complete to use it. So we can do continuous integration and deployment. So meaning that we are going to open SLICES for experimenters basically in spring 2024. And then, of course, we will broaden and enrich the capacity of SLICES. So with respect to the legal structure, so we have for the moment a memorandum of understanding among the participants, but we agreed on moving into an ERIC, and we expect that the legal structure will be basically established in 2 years from now. I know it's quite difficult, but this is what we have in mind. Okay? And then, of course, we will move into a full-fledged infrastructure in a few years. So what is the business model there? And again, I know we have, and I would like to thank them, some important industrial partners here. When we move into S3, I was a little bit surprised that, not that surprised, but moving into Pillar 1, of course, S3 is expecting us also to have an economical impact, meaning a value for industry. So that's very important for us to take on board of SLICES industrial requirements, as well as, of course, the impact on society. And I will give you an example a bit later. So what we do in SLICES is, of course, to leverage European and national funding, as well as hopefully funding from the usage of the infrastructure, what it will be in operation. And of course, what is really important for us is to demonstrate the value for the users, as well as impact assessment for economy and society. Although we are a quite young development, I would like to show that we are moving at a quite fast pace, and we already succeed to receive funding from the member states. For instance, Elena mentioned that through this PEPR, so exploratory initiative in France related to 5G and 6G, 14 or 15 million euros have been already dedicated to the development of the French node infrastructure. And you see here, likewise, so already achieved funding for Flanders in Belgium, Finland, Italy, Poland, and others are coming because they are all into the pipe of.
If you allow me a quick comment, Serge, I would like to thank here the regional government of Madrid, who has just very recently contributed 300,000 for the very, very starting phase. So these dots that are there, each of them is 100,000. So thank you very much, Ms. Cremades.
Thank you so much. And you know, that's my political angle. So I decided not to put any numbers so that there is no issue, and the larger, the better, of course. But what is important, again, it was mentioned by all of you, we believe it is a strategic development. And of course, you cannot have a strategic development with no funding. It's like in competitive sport, so that's something which is well understood by the stakeholders. And it's coming now. So last week I was in Switzerland for the kickoff of the Swiss node, and in Poland 3 weeks ago, and it's moving forward. Cyprus is next. So again, we are very confident that we will receive the investment to support the development of the member state nodes. But of course, we're very active also on the European front. So we succeed to get the funding from, let's say, the regular S3 source. So you see here, basically 10 million euros that we received to develop SLICES, mostly from the organizational point of view. So SLICES DS, which is over now, SLICES SC, which is ongoing, and SLICES PP. But those are not the only initiative that we took. And although we don't have yet a legal statute, we are very well involved because that's the strategy of SLICES. The strategy of SLICES is that we should be used by most of the important framework worldwide as a target infrastructure for testing in digital infrastructure. So this is why you see here, for instance, a first funding that we received. So not all partners of SLICES, but a few partners to help developing the strategy. Converge is very interesting. It's an initiative where we join efforts related to vision and wireless, like sensing and so on. So it's, as you can see, an initiative which is worth 8 million euro and where SLICES is going to basically aggregate those platforms that will be developed in Converge. Then you see, for instance, Sunrise 6G. This is a major development for us to demonstrate in the 6GIA European Forum that SLICES is an important target. So we are there. Also, I would like to mention 6G XL, which is again a European 6GIA initiative to develop a partnership between Europe and the US on AI related to telecommunication. And again, we position SLICES as a target for that purpose. And the last example that I would like to give, it's a new project that we won. It's called Green Digit. And as you can see, it is what is the carbon footprint of ICT and how can we develop a research to mitigate the carbon footprint of what we develop. So that's really, really important, again, to consider the impact of what we develop as well as the impact on society. So as you see, SLICES is a community with a strategy really to access funding from all the different sources because, of course, we need that funding to develop our initiative. Not going into the details, but we agreed moving into an ERIC. We hope that all the countries involved will support this. It has been yet decided, but this is now the process. As you can see, so the letters to ministries have been sent to all the partners. We expect the official nomination of the ISB members by the ministries soon because we would like to set the first ISB meeting this November. And then, of course, there is a continuous discussion between SLICES PP and the ISB in order to finalize the framework, then moving into what they call step 1 and step 2, because the European Commission, of course, will be involved in the discussion. And this ISB is going to become the governance body of SLICES until the ERIC is yet in place. So I'm not going into the details of the research topics. They are really broad. They engage different communities from, again, networking, telecommunication, cloud, HPC, and so on, with, as you can see, two important developments, one related to security and one related to the greening of the infrastructure, together with what we call the vertical. So the application to smart agriculture, smart cities, smart energy, and so on and so forth, because they are all dependent on the digital infrastructure. We don't do everything at once. It's just impossible. So we started with what we call the blueprint in 6G. Now we agreed a month ago to enrich that blueprint to the cloud dimension as well as the data dimension. And of course, we are going to onboard different domains as the community will be able to engage. So it's really important, it's a change in the mindset to understand that when you move into a scientific instrument, the infrastructure is only half of the game. And I would like to say that when I was discussing with our nice colleagues in astronomy or energy physics, it was often quite difficult to explain what is our scientific challenge. Because we don't have the Higgs boson. We cannot say, oh, does it exist? And I need that instrument to demonstrate. But one thing that they understood is when I said that, unfortunately, in our domain, often we cannot demonstrate the result that we produce because it's not reproducible. And we need a scientific instrument to be able to make it reproducible. So it was mentioned also by Mr. Colomer. SLICES aimed at becoming a repository for the research in that domain, providing a repository for fair data, as well as interoperability with EOSC. That's really key for us. So I won't go into the details, but what is really important to understand is that SLICES is going to act as a repository, not only for the data, but also for all the digital objects. For instance, today, you have tons of papers in our domain dealing with machine learning. Of course, we diluted ICT in machine learning, but all the papers basically cannot be reproduced. So we don't have access to the data. We don't even have access to the models. What does it mean? It means that it's just an artifact. So this is something really important for us, and we have put a lot of emphasis on that data dimension. So likewise for reproducibility, so we have a framework which is going to be onboarded on the SLICES roadmap, which is dealing with reproducibility. So not only the colleagues will have to share the data and the digital object, but also other colleagues will be able to reproduce what has been delivered by others and add to the knowledge of the community. So I'll skip this. I would like to close on skills. You know, it's really, really something important to continue to be attractive and to develop skills for the young, talented people who are interested to join this domain at large. So SLICES aimed at developing skills for the community, not only for students, but also for professional and lifelong learning. Of course, there is no competition with universities because we are universities for most of us. And so we decided to create SLICES Academy. So in SLICES Academy, we have different kinds of tools, so mostly related to skills like micro-credentials. It's important to develop those micro-credentials and to be able to recognize those micro-credentials because, again, today, for instance, the way we design, deploy, and operate networks is completely different because it's driven by computer science, software components, and that was not the case in the past. So, of course, there are tons of engineers within the industry that have to be reskilled. And that's really, really important. So in SLICES, we have this skill-driven approach. And also, we disseminate a lot. So I would like to mention the networking channel, which is a very important development, which is able to reach out to the entire community worldwide. And of course, this also opened the capacity for us to seek for funding within Erasmus, because that's also another place where we can get access to funding. Well, I'll skip the technical part, just to say that we started already. A good thing is that we are not in a hurry. In most of the past projects, basically you receive a funding for 3 years, so you have to rush, because if after 2 years you don't have anything to provide to experimenters, you will not be able to demonstrate usage. So we have time, but already we started to develop a blueprint to make sure that the community is able to share the same strategy and the same, let's say, components. And this blueprint is developing well now, and it is what I said earlier, we can deploy at scale, which is really something unique. So again, we are on the roadmap, not only, of course, fortunately, of S3, but also with respect to international cooperation. So you see here different type of partnership dialogue that we had with, let's say, open source software communities like ONF or Open Interface. Of course, I mentioned the European framework. It's important also we are in Pillar 1 to demonstrate our value to Pillar 2. As well as international cooperation initiative like in Japan related to digital infrastructure. We are invited also to demonstrate what is the development of SLICES. So just to close, we believe that this is a unique initiative. It's an infrastructure, but it's also dealing with data, which we believe is critical. And we are going to continue to populate the SLICES Academy. And again, this is a European initiative, but we do it jointly with our colleagues at the international level. So for instance, the SLICES blueprint is developed jointly with colleagues in the US under the NSF umbrella. And we expect to have similar capacity with an ICT in Japan and with RNP in Brazil, just to take a few examples. So I thank you for your attention. I don't want to be too long. And again, thank you so much for organizing this event in Spain. And I am sure that this is going to define a very nice development for the future. Thank you so much.